us about yourself.
Well, I have lived in Arlington for 18 years, and we moved here because of the affordable housing and the great schools. And we
Okay.
were raising a bunch of kids, and we wanted a safe, happy, great education for them.
Mm-hmm.
And we lived in Las Vegas before we moved to Arlington, but we were in Las Vegas for 4 years, and their school system is also extremely challenged, and
Oh,
we
yeah.
learned a lot. And I tried homeschooling one year, and that did not work well for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized that there's not a perfect schooling option for
Right.
everyone, but there's a lot of good options for a lot of different people. And it's really important to have choices available because every student is different. Every kid of mine is so different, and every person learns differently and has different talents and needs options and opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
Before we lived in Las Vegas, we lived in Washington in the Seattle area, Edmonds, and I graduated from Mount Lake Terrace High School a long time ago. And before that, I was in private school up until 8th grade. And my big reason for leaving private school is because I wanted more options. I wanted more opportunities. And I had to talk my family into letting me not go to private school to get the really good education, have the option to go to public school. And I really wanted to meet people and make friends. And I was able to come out of my shell. I was really shy as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
I was able to make lots of friends and learn new skills and talents. And I went through kind of a challenging time in my teenage years. And I was really challenged in a lot of different ways with my family. And I was able to have the support I needed to go through that tough time
Mm-hmm.
with my friends and the families and the school community that I was in. And I want to give back. Hopefully my kids are getting the options that I didn't get and the opportunities and the help that they need. And I
Mm-hmm.
want to give back because school changed my life and changed the trajectory of so many things in my world. And I want to have all kids have those options available and opportunities to learn and grow and develop new talents and skills. So that's kind of like where we got started.
Right.
I've been married to my husband, Ken, for 30 years, coming up in April.
Very
And,
nice.
and we have a bunch of kids that have gone through the district. We have 4 that have graduated already and 2 more to go. And I've been pretty involved in the schools for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
And now that I work full time, I'm not able to help in the schools like I did long ago. I've been kind of the sole breadwinner while my husband's been going through some significant health challenges in the last 5 years. And so I've been working full time at the hospital in Arlington, and I've been going to school part time for the last 8 years or so, just taking one class at a time.
Yes.
And I will finish my bachelor's degree in a year.
Wow. Congratulations.
3 more classes after this one. And so I'll have a business management degree, and I don't know what I'm going to do with it. I'm still not yet figured out my next plan in life, but I love my job. I love Arlington. I love the school district. I love our kids and our families and our schools, and I want them to have the best. And yeah, any questions yet?
Yes. Well, I think it's awesome to hear sort of how long you've been involved with the schools, because that means sort of those in-depth, long-term relationships and connections too, that I think can foster a lot of positive growth, because more people are able to be like vulnerable with you because they know you on a deeper level. So that sounds like a really great asset for the school board.
I do love getting to know people and hearing from them. That's so rewarding for me.
Awesome. Good. So I know a little bit about like what someone who's involved with the school board might do, but help me understand like what kind of duties you would do and how you are involved in that role.
Sure. So there are some Big things that the school board does. First of all, everything that happens on a school board happens in a school board meeting as a team with quorum. Nobody on the school board makes a decision on their own and has it apply to anything. I can have an opinion all I want, but until we all vote on it and it becomes official at a board meeting, then that's the only way anything happens is with a quorum at a meeting.
Okay.
The school board is comprised of 5 elected officials. We also have 2 student advisors, which are amazing. We love our student advisors, and they weigh in on topics and kind of give us their feedback and perspective. The school board members have a couple duties. They are in charge of one employee. Only one employee, and that is the superintendent. They are responsible for hiring, firing, supervising, and maintaining that connection. And their whole purpose is to serve kind of as an oversight. So they approve the budget, they approve policies, they approve contracts and things like that. And they set the goals and the strategic plan. Those are kind of the higher level sort of bird's eye view of the district to try to give it guidance and direction. But all of the day-to-day operations of the school district, that is done by the superintendent and the staff. So the school board people are not supposed to get involved in all the day-to-day stuff, but we do like to hear about it and see it in action.
Yes, and that's nice because then you get to be sort of that additional set of eyes that helps kind of keep things maybe goal oriented and within that strategic plan.
So part of our duties and responsibilities is approving the budget every year, and the budget is vast. It has different sources of revenue, different accounts, different buckets that the money goes into, and just knowing how that all works and where the money comes from and what it all means. That's another thing that the school board is responsible for. And we take that part pretty seriously because that's our tax dollars. We represent all the taxpayers in the district and have oversight over the expenditures. And so it's kind of an important job.
It is an important job. And I think it was one of the candidates that I was speaking with was sharing, just how much of our tax dollars go to schools, and that it is really important that we know, kind of where that's going, and that we vote for people who we can trust to sort of have our best interest in mind when kind of keeping an eye on things and advocating for how things are going.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. I love that. So what do you think is kind of one of the biggest challenges that sort of the school district in general faces right now?
I would say there's probably several, and I don't know what the right order is, what the highest priority is, but we have a lot of COVID recovery that we need to do. And there's kind of 3 different aspects of COVID recovery that I'm thinking about, and that would be the financial challenges that came from COVID, the emotional challenges that came from COVID, and then the academic challenges that came from COVID. So the financial challenges were that we lost a lot of enrollment, and our budget comes from how many students are in the building. We don't have as many students, we don't have as many dollars. And we lose students and we have budgeted for a higher number of students, then we are short. And so the last couple of years, we had budgeted for a little higher than we actually had. And enrollment hadn't recovered as fast as we had hoped. And so we were short with money. And then we were also spending more because we had all these significant needs and we had all these extra expenses. And every time we had to have special medical help for screening kids and taking temperatures and all the extra PPE, we got money from places for things like that, but we still spent an awful lot. So there was a lot more expenses and a lot more juggling of resources to try to meet all the needs of all the kids. So there was the financial issues that came from COVID. And then all of the students that were home, like alone and not really being socialized or supported or encouraged.
Right.
Maybe just laying in their bed watching TikTok
Mhm.
or something that
Yes.
was not like conducive to learning or growing or um, maturing. So we have
Yes.
a lot of kids they have some deficits with their ability to navigate behaviors and
Mhm.
challenges with emotions. And we have students that really struggle with anxiety and depression. And I keep seeing a higher number of students
Mhm.
that are needing counseling, and there's not enough counselors,
Right.
and we have grants, and it's wonderful that we can get some people to help some of our students, but there's
Right.
so much more
Right.
that we need help with.
Yes.
There's that emotional thing. And then on top of it all, there's some academic deficits that happened because some of the kids didn't learn how to do certain things with
Mhm.
our online options that we had that wasn't the best. We all know online
Right.
isn't the best. So there's kids that don't know enough of a subject or two or three or all of them.
Mhm.
My ninth grader during the COVID shutdown years flunked almost all of
Mhm.
their classes, and we had to
Mhm.
do credit retrieval and make up
Mhm.
lots of lost knowledge opportunities. And it was a big challenge. And
Right.
my seventh grader never really figured out how to do a locker because
Mhm.
he started sixth grade and then COVID hit and he still hadn't figured out lockers. And there's just so many little tiny gaps in
Yes.
their knowledge. So I would
That you
say
don't really think about.
so many little things.
Mhm.
The kids learning how to navigate relationships and all those things. There's just little gaps all over the place.
Right.
So I think
Yeah.
that's probably the biggest challenges is still
Mhm.
our COVID recovery. And I don't know how long it's going to take, but some of the kids had a bigger gaps and some of them
Mhm.
didn't. So it
Right.
totally depended on their circumstances and their ability to navigate it.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely. So how do you feel like in your role that you can best advocate for, positive outcomes with those challenges?
Oh, that's a great question. Absolutely. That's my goal is to
Mhm.
advocate for positive outcomes. So
Mhm.
I think just being aware of what the
Mhm.
situation is, being able to deep dive into the data that we have. So we
Mhm.
do have some information that we gather about where the kids are academically, what their
Mhm.
test results say, what their teachers are saying. So just really being a learner of
Mhm.
where the learning loss is, and then really having an eye on what kinds of resources we can add
Mhm.
or multiply so
Right.
that we can make sure that we are reducing as many barriers. So like if
Mhm.
there was a grant that we could apply for and get to help more kids get more help with
Mhm.
their social and emotional learning, or if there was new curriculum that we could look at that might help the situation, those are things that I would advocate for, and really
Mhm.
just listening to kids and
Yeah.
learning about what they need and what they're saying, because
Mhm.
they have that power to make changes in their own world. Because
Yeah.
the hardest thing about COVID was we had no power to fix it. And
Right.
the control, nobody had control. It felt out of control.
Right.
There was a lot of challenges. So.
Mhm. Yeah, so if there's a community member that has a question or maybe feedback or something, would they attend a board meeting? Could they reach out to you? Like, how does that kind of work as far as community involvement?
Well, good question. Great question, actually. It's something that I have to explain all the time. So I feel like we should make a little like TikTok video about how
Right.
awesome it is to advocate for your kids and how it can make such a huge difference. So anytime there's an issue or a problem with anything affecting a student, it's so important to talk about it and to speak up.
Mhm.
The first step would normally be that you talk to the lowest level of authority. So if it's an issue with your child's teacher, you first talk to the teacher, or if
Mhm.
they're high schooler, hopefully the high schooler is talking to their teacher and saying, I don't think that this is fair the way you did this, or
Mhm.
I don't like this curriculum. Can I do something different? Like,
Mhm.
so hopefully we're starting at the lowest level and
Mhm.
raising the concern. And then working with whoever it is to try to solve it. If
Mhm.
that doesn't work and it needs to be escalated, then we escalate it to the next level. So
Mhm.
like if it was a coach, then we would go to the athletic director. If it was a school bus driver, we would go to the transportation department or the
Mhm.
supervisor. Or if it was a food service person, we would talk to the food service manager. If it was a teacher, we would talk to the principal, etc. So we would go to the
Mhm.
next level of authority, and they would raise that concern and say, here's what we've tried already and it hasn't
Mhm.
worked. Please help. And
Mhm.
then hopefully they could resolve it. But if not, then it would go to the next level, which would be like the district office and somebody
Mhm.
in another higher level of authority to solve the problem. And then if it still doesn't work out, then they would bring their concerns to the school board.
Okay.
Sometimes people just text me and say, hey, Mary, what's
Yeah.
going on? I heard this. And I'm like, okay, well, here's how you do this. And
Yeah.
I have to explain the whole
Mhm.
the process that would normally happen. But it is really important. And I would absolutely answer any question anybody asked me
Mhm.
if it was in my ability to answer.
Yeah.
And so I welcome feedback and letters to the school board and coming to a school board meeting, but you don't have to do that.
Right.
There's lots of other options. We do have
Okay.
lots of opportunities to advocate for your kids or on behalf of your kids. There's lots of ways to get involved and get connected to different
Mhm.
organizations that can help. So like if there's a parent group at a school, like there's a booster club at the high school, there's a PTA at Weston,
Mhm.
there's a parent group at SVLC. There's usually ways to kind of get involved and
Mhm.
help and learn more about your child's school and advocate for whatever you feel like is essential. Like if you're really into, I don't know, chess and you
Mhm.
see that there's no chess activities for your kid and you really want to get that started, then you could work with the PTA at your school to start a chess club or something after
Mhm.
school and make that happen. And
Right.
that's kind of how things get started, is having a conversation and having somebody speak up and
Yeah.
advocate for their kids'
Right.
needs.
And I like how you said that, there's this whole process generally, and there's ultimately lots of ways that you can have your voice heard. I think obviously it's a great thing that someone doesn't have to come to the school board because they think that could be really intimidating for a lot of people. And even just having those hard conversations like with the teacher or the student with the teacher, can be difficult a lot of times, but it's also one of those skills that are really, really wonderful to learn too. That's going to be so helpful later in life for students. So I like that you mentioned that too, that hopefully the student is talking to their teacher and advocating for themselves too.
That's ultimately the goal, is to
Yes.
help them be
Yeah.
responsible. We have a couple opportunities also for the district for kids to
Mhm.
speak up and parents to speak up. We have something that we call our community voices, and our
Right.
next one's coming up, I think August. No, not, what month are we in? October.
October.
October 26th. I think is the next one, and it's going to be held in the district office, and there'll be opportunities for people to just come and chat with members of the board and the administration and just say, hey, this is really heavily weighing on my mind. I really
Mhm.
want you guys to know about this. And so
Yeah.
it's kind of an opportunity just to advocate more and
Right.
have that opportunity to talk.
And are those monthly or how often do they
I
happen?
think we're doing them quarterly or
Okay.
maybe twice yearly. I'm not sure.
Okay.
And we also have something called staff voices. So the staff can weigh in and
Okay.
have those opportunities. And then we have something called student voices, which is
Oh,
my favorite.
right.
So tomorrow I get to go to Camp Prairie and listen to a group of students talk about some of the things that they really like about their school, things that they would rather change about their school, and
Mhm.
what kind of gets in the way of their learning. And I just love their little answers. They're usually very smart and
Yes.
very well spoken and
Uh-huh.
engaging and adorable. So
I love that.
yeah, it's going to be
That's so
fun.
wonderful. So, oh my gosh, I have so many questions because this just makes my heart swell. I guess what are some ways that you see the school resource officer sort of engaging and what's the importance of that for you?
Oh, good question. So our school resource officer is tremendously a fun and engaging kind of guy. He's
Yeah.
very chatty. His name is Nate. I'm sure I'm supposed to call him like officer somebody, but he's Nate.
Yeah.
And he's so fun to talk to. His job is just to talk to kids and get to know them. He's not there to be a disciplinarian. He's there to just kind of help protect our students and keep them safe and help resolve conflicts if they pop up. There's a whole system that's put in place for school resource officers. Their job is not really meant to be policing the student, but more protection. There are some students that don't feel safer having a police officer there, and that is concerning and hard to know. But it's our reality that there's some students that don't feel safer with police around.
Right.
The reminder that there's danger. And some people have some history and some trouble, and it's not helps. It doesn't help them all feel safe. It does help, a good percentage of our students feel safer, and it helps our community feel safer.
Right.
It's another line of protection around our kids.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And I like that you mentioned that it isn't great for everyone necessarily. And I always see those as sort of opportunities for sort of further education, I guess, around like how can you work on things that feel unsafe or feel uncomfortable, and work on developing relationships that are hard or don't feel super safe all the time. So
there's a lot of different things that we're trying to do to keep kids safe. There was something a few years ago where there was reports in the news about, there's always reports in the news about school shootings, and we take that real seriously. Keep kids safe is number one priority, because if kids aren't safe, they're not going to be learning.
Right.
So 4 years ago, we passed a school capital levy, which was something that we hadn't done ever before. And the purpose of that was to raise funds to do small construction projects that would build things at each school to keep the outside safe. So extra layers of protection with secure entrances and special doors and door locks to keep them safe, and added another wing to Arlington High School. So our community felt real strongly and supported that. And that's just another layer of protection to try to keep our kids learning safely.
I love that. And I think it's super helpful to hear about how those things actually look. We might hear about it, we might vote for it, or contribute in some way. But sometimes we don't see it all happening. So it's nice to hear from some sort of an insider perspective of the things that are really happening. So yeah. What do you think is sort of a challenge that you see for parents right now? And what are ways you think that maybe either you or other community members might be able to help support the parents or the caregivers?
I think the parents are struggling in every single way that our children are struggling. Kids don't just go home to an empty house with, perfect families.
Right.
We're all struggling. After the pandemic, how many people had problems with their health and their finances and their own mental health? And I think with the economy the way it is and inflation, I think there's so many people that are struggling in a higher percentage than we had before the pandemic. Parents get the worst of it. As a mom, I see my kids when they're absolutely the worst. They're the grumpiest, they're the tiredest, they're the hungriest. They're not at their best.
Right.
And there's not as many supports for families as we need. We don't have a lot of help for our families. I think that for me personally, when I was a stay-at-home mom, I felt isolated and alone a lot. Sometimes I would be drowning and I couldn't pick up the phone to call anybody because I was too busy holding babies all night and exhausted. And so I think we need to do a better job as society in general. There's not enough safety nets and helpers. I know there's a lot of moms groups and preschools and church groups and youth groups. There's not a lot of other resources that can help struggling families.
Yeah.
But yeah,
That's a
if your family's struggling, then your kids aren't going to be doing as good either.
Right. And that's a good point too for, the community at large to know. A lot of people that I've been talking with, we've talked a lot about sort of the culture of Arlington and how we want to preserve, the small town feel and all of that, but more specifically, this idea that we have each other's backs and we, within the business community specifically, that we really try to advocate for each other a lot, and help each other out as much as we can, but also just as a community as a whole, that we can help too. Like I hear that and I think, oh, what are ways that I can do my part too to support those parents that might be struggling or families that might be having a hard time, and that we all kind of can, election season, all we're doing, right, is like paying attention to what is so and so doing, what are they about, who am I going to vote for? But what we tend to forget is our own accountability in it as well, and what role we have as community members and voters to, one, be informed, but two, we also have to participate in order for anything to happen. These positions, these elected positions don't just operate by themselves. We participate in them. So how can we be part of the solution too?
Great.
So,
Yeah, that's the hardest thing because everybody's different. They're in different situations. Just to throw out a couple numbers for you.
Yeah.
Out of all of the students in Arlington, there's about 5,000 students or so. About 40% are free and reduced meals. So they're living in the poverty range, and are not as well-to-do as some of our other families. And there's a lot of competition. There's a lot of peer pressure. Everything costs so much more than it used to.
Right.
The more we can be honest and vulnerable and ask for help when we need it. There's so many people that just suffer in silence. There's a lot of people that don't ask for help because they don't want anyone to know that they need help. So that they just really need help and suffer in silence.
Yeah. And that's a good point, because I think we all need help from time to time. And sometimes in some phases of life more than others, and normalizing that piece of it takes a village, and let's just do our part for each other and ourselves, and normalize the fact that, it's okay to ask for help, for sure.
We do have some resources. We have the Community Resource Center. We've got your social justice. We've got Kids Closet, which provides so many wonderful opportunities for our kids. And if you are needing help, I hope that you are asking for help. And if you have availability to help, I hope you are contributing in some way that you can.
Right. I like that a lot. Awesome. Anything else that you want voters to know about you?
I don't know. Ask me anything.
I think the biggest thing, just from hearing you speak and in your experience, is just that the school district is and the kids are clearly like a huge part of your heart. And so I think that's just very admirable that you are willing to represent, students and families, and you have really great perspective and background too. So thanks.
Well, thank you. It's my pleasure. And it was been a delight to talk to you.